Hey all, here is a replay version of the most recent live stream Q&A on all things Social Security that occurs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is with all of little silences carved out of it. So I hope it's an easier listen for those who are doing the replay versus being there live. And we'd love to see you live. So feel free to pop in. Bye-bye now. Hey guys, let me know you can hear me, please, so we can get started. See a bunch of you in here. Thanks so much for showing up early, guys. I appreciate. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Just pop in a yes, guys, if it's so. Is connected. Michelle, you rock. Thank you. First one to answer that. So how you guys doing? It's been 2 weeks. It was terrible last week. Oh my goodness. I felt so bad too. I'm not one to not show up. I really am not. You'll see me with colds and everything else for those of you who haven't been here long. I'll be blowing my nose all throughout if I have to. Okay, I see Kevin Johnson. I see Papa's Place. To you. Was it always to you or is that a new name? I see Trish White. Hi there. AF Vet. Nice to see you, bud. Michelle, of course, and my good help in telling me that you can hear me. Dolphin. I don't think we've met, but nice to see you. Trish, thanks for chiming in on that loud and clear. And Dimple's in the house. Okay, great. So let's see where we're going today, guys. I don't even have the upcoming YouTube stuff in front of me, so I'm not even going to bother with that. So we can just hop right to it. Let's see. Let's see. Kevin Johnson. Hi, Kevin. Did I miss your name when I was going down, or did I say it first? So Kevin's saying that his hearing is January 9th, 3 days after his 60th birthday. What's the chance of getting an OTR? Funny you should ask that, Kevin, because I just got an OTR for tomorrow's hearing. We don't get these very often. Very, very rare. And I will say it was a early 60s. And guys, it was a fatigue case. It was a chronic fatigue case. Not that there was some other incidentals, but without the fatigue, it wouldn't be. I mean, without the severity of the fatigue, and now that's the thing he treats for the most. It's a post-cancer treatment, fatigue, thyroid cancer with all the, difficult treatments for that. So it is definitely preventive of full-time work. Now, the argument also went, because I did do a brief, and you guys know how my last month has been with pulling midnight shifts to get briefs done while I was running around helping somebody during the day in an area I am not familiar with. But we always argue a grid, but you never fall back on anything. Just like you never rely on a listing, you don't rely on a grid, you do have to always rely on RFC in some shape or form with everything but a listing. So in this case, we also had some, being close to 60 myself, some instability on the feet, obviously more than those of us that don't have really a true impairment, but we probably all notice, those of us that are up there like that we are not as solid as on our feet. We might take stairs a little more carefully than we used to when we used to hop, skip, and jump down them. I have stairs in my house. I can't wait till I don't. But, for now, and sometimes I do hop, skip, jump just to make sure I still can, but I have to do it with intention now, or else I have been known to miss a step, and it's not pretty. And there's a loud boom, and things can break, and hopefully not my body parts. Anywho, OTR, ironically, Kevin, yes, I just had one. And again, I only get these very rarely. I mean, maybe once a year, and they are the best. I kind of wish I didn't put in all those hours on the brief, but who knows? Maybe all that helped. It really depends on what you're submitting. I know you have a lawyer, right? So that increases the chances, I think, because you probably have all of your evidence in. And I think that's a struggle when you don't have a lawyer that's doing that for you, because we like to get things into like the day before. If you have a visit the day before a hearing, we like to tell the judge about it before the deadline that we have, which is even earlier than that, to get in all evidence or to tell them what's missing and why it might be important to hold the hearing open a few days to get that evidence. So in this case, we did have outstanding evidence, and I'd already sent in my evidence letter, but it wasn't necessary. Like none of that. He didn't need that evidence to give him an OTR. So, and I will say, I'd gotten the call last week about it. I was utterly thrilled. And it was with the question, would the client amend their onset date 2 months forward, closer in time, to align with the actual date of diagnosis of the cancer? So this was an interesting case because the original filing was an alleged onset date of when the income stopped from the job. A lot of things you don't find out originally because, the client doesn't necessarily mention it. And then as you're doing your discovery with the client, getting those data packets that we're so obsessed with done, and then seeing more and talking a little bit about some of the details, come to find out that the last 2 years, almost 3 years, 3 years, 3 years of income, which was a pretty high income, was not actually with work activity. It was where the very kind employer, I might have done a video on this, the very kind employer had given me, upon request, a statement that I put into a 795. And we did this back on initial and recon, but they don't look at this stuff. It's a judge who has the discretion and the more connecting of the dots. Explaining that the last 3 years, I basically gave him paid leave because that's what I do for all of my very sick employers. This is like a small employer with 600 employees. And it's one who has been through health struggles himself and is very wealthy. And it's not a corporation where he has to answer to, shareholders. So we're talking 6 figures a year for the person to focus on getting well. And it was just a super, super kind thing to do. I think this is extremely rare of an employer. But anyway, I had written in and asked for an alleged onset date amendment to back 3 years earlier from what we'd originally put in once I learned of this. And you don't hear anything, you hear anything, that's normal. So if you ever do that on initial and recon, don't expect a response. But when we got to, and the person got denied too, because it wasn't some of those very clear musculoskeletal things, it was the fatigue. But the judge not only granted the amended onset, then asked if we'd amend it 2 months forward from 3 years prior to match up with not when he stopped working, but 2 months later when the actual diagnosis came in. And of course, with bells on, So I spoke to the client and I think we messaged actually. I don't know if he was picking up, but that's what the portal's so great for. And bingo, it was done. And I left a couple of messages for the clerk, but she never got back to me. So I sent up a letter confirming my understanding that this would be an OTR with a date in February of 2021 would be onset. So I couldn't be more thrilled for the fellow. Super nice guy, client. And it's just lovely when everything goes the way it should go to make justice and right be done, at least by the time you get to a judge. So I know you guys like to knock the judges, but a lot of them are very, very good. And, I don't have a lot of complaints. I do have complaints here and there and you hear them, but when they do right, they do right. So OTRs are possible, Kevin, but I would still say it's rare even when you're over 60. Perhaps more likely, but still rare. And my other one from last year, I think, was an over 60 person too. Let's see. Papa's Place. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, chat. Hello, hello. Papa's Place says, my doctor has placed me as a high risk for falls and prescribed me a walker with seat and quad cane. Yes, this will help your case, I believe, Papa's Place. And I'm 58 in November with heavy construction. Yes, I do think so. And honestly, depending on what your MRIs and stuff say, if they're very supportive of some significant damage, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I would say shouldn't that be an OTR just you don't really need to hear the person speak or see them. The records should kind of speak it. Now, it's true that the prescription alone wouldn't do it, but Papa's Place, you probably have the MRIs and all the other things that would, if it was musculoskeletal, be the reason for the limitations and the instability and why the doctor prescribed the assistive devices. I mean, a walker with a seat, I think, is big because it shows that, yes, not only the imbalance that you need it for the walker, but also maybe the weakness that will ensue with being on your feet. And therefore you need to be able to sit when you need to sit and not figure out how you're going to get over that chair over there in record time before you go down. So I do like that. That is a very good piece of evidence. And it's a good chance you have all the very firm backups. Oh, by the way, see Tasha, I just fed her. So she's like, oh, sorry. And I gave her some water too, because I knew she was going to be in here for a couple hours to get thirsty. Got a little silver container. Right, Tosh? You want to say hi? She was cleaning herself. See, she's got a little, I'm just taking off the little stuff you have, your food on your mouth. Hey, be nice. See, that's all I was doing. You okay? So did you see her just bite her own arm? She does that when she wants to tell me, get away from me. I could bite you like I'm biting myself. It's so funny, right? You little crabby? You little grumpy pants? Yeah. She's so sweet. She's got an appointment on the 24th, her follow-up. Very excited. Hi, Trish Wade. So AF Vet says, this is part 1 of 2, I think he's saying. Good afternoon. I've had a CDP test completed to measure my balance. The results indicated global imbalance and high fall risk. And that's a very good piece of evidence too, AF, for sure. Because when you think about being imbalanced, guys, this would eliminate jobs on the feet that are heavy on the feet. That includes even light jobs are heavy on the feet. It doesn't include, per se, sedentary jobs. But if you're gritting out and you are over 50, even if you can do a sedentary job, you can still grit out with the medical vocational rules, the grids. So that's very good. Presumably then you are using an assistive device? Maybe not every second of the day, but like when you leave the house, when you don't have furniture to hold on to if you need to. Because, sometimes it's the whole circumstances, guys. It's the whole context and the circumstantial evidence. So like if someone says, oh yeah, I have really bad something, and then the normal things you would expect to occur with that, like the choice to have a cane or the choice not to take a construction job at that time, and the person is not doing that stuff or is doing something that you would say that doesn't really line up with the other thing. So it's the whole totality of the circumstances that anyone's going to look at when they're deciding how credible and or how severe the actual impairments are in terms of affecting. Does that make sense? Papa's Place says, you said 5 by 5. What does that mean? Oh, that means all 5 senses. Sorry. You're talking about the hearing and such. Awesome. Isn't there like a 6th sense? There was a movie about that, Papa's Place. And is there a 7th sense? I don't know. We just know about the 5 we can recognize, right? Okay, 2 of 2 for a capacity test to measure how my dizziness affects my ability to do things. Be careful what you wish for, because if they say more than what you, it could backfire. You don't necessarily always need that. I would be careful how much you go and try to self-create versus it being implicit at the very least in your treating records. The treating records are the most credible because they're not, when you get an FCE, unless there are some instances, I guess, when usually it's really severe, like, can this person live alone? The strongest evidence comes from your treating doctors who are not getting paid to make things look good for you. Whereas a paid exam, when you go and pay an FCE company, which is usually workers' comp they do it for, but they might have someone who could try to figure out how to do it for SSD if they even know what those questions are. I've seen some real train wrecks come out of there. They're getting paid and they know the result wanted. So sometimes when someone's getting paid, there's less value in terms of being reliable and not conflicted. Just something to think about. Jay Vaughn. How you doing, Jay? I've been testing for 5 years with different speaking along the way. When should I submit new information to SSD? Do you mean different treatment along the way, Jay? I've been testing for 5 years. Testing what? I'm a little confused on what the question is. But if you have an ongoing case and you have an adjudicator, you're at the DDS where they're doing a medical workup for a pending claim that you've already made. Yeah, you got to get them all the information. If you don't have someone to do it for you, you got to do it all yourself. Oh, Javon says, or my lawyer. Yeah, the lawyer should be running that show, in my opinion. I know some lawyers become lawyers for a case and then they say, go run with it. We'll be here when you're done. I'm like, what is that? Okay. Dolphin says, oh, I'm RD. Why did it come up as Dolphin? I don't know, but I like dolphins. It looks like one of those automatically created names, but nice to see you, RD. Always nice to see you guys back again. Jay Vaughn says he has a hearing in the middle of November. Okay, we'll have our fingers crossed for you, and hope you have the best outcome possible. Dimple says, I now really feel for the lady in the commercial. I've fallen and I can't get up. I can only imagine. They say retaining our ability to get back up. And it's not if you broke something, of course. It's if you've fallen, but you just can't get up because of your weakness. That is like one of the big dangers and, dare I say, a risk factor for not having a long life. I used to actually practice it, and I haven't practiced it in like a year. Literally being on the floor, maybe getting Indian style, and then it's really hard. Once you've built that, like if you, and I'm not a physical therapist or a personal trainer, but this is what my personal trainers at the gym back when I was going would, we'd have chit chats about it. And I've watched some YouTube stuff, and I'm going to get back into this as soon as I get a little more sanity in my schedule, which is going to be soon, guys. It's definitely going to be 2026 is my year when it's done, not the practice, the sanity, because I got a lot of things in the work to make that happen better. I mean, adding this whole thing, YouTube, live stream, and the several years of the dailies before that was something I did because not so much that I had the spare time, but because I was like, darn, this is ridiculous if I can't do something like this because I'm doing so much admin, with the practice. So that's what I'm working on, a little bit of automation of certain things that are very mundane. So I can focus on the bigger, more important things like the actual legal strategies. I really enjoy intake too. Like when I am calling a person I've never spoken to, but the evaluation has landed in my lap as you got to call this person, Stephanie. That is a really good interaction for me. I meet so many people. And usually if I'm calling them, we're probably accepting them if they want to be accepted. So it's just you learn so much about everyone's struggles, and we all have them. We all go through them. And those of us that haven't had them too bad in one arena are probably going to later, and vice versa. And it's just a lot of humanity. And I really appreciate it. I now give a little prayer for every single person I speak to, as opposed to, yes, more generally, I do it anyway, because I think we could all use a little bit of that. Papa's Place says, but going back to it, Dimple, yeah, practicing to get up first with one hand, then with no hands. I think it's like use it or lose it. Once we lose it, which I will lose it soon if I haven't already, but I can build it back up because I don't have any broken bones yet. I'm going to do that. And you just reminded me to make that top of my list. Maybe every morning I'll have to get it into some sort of routine. Papa's Place. My doctor has placed me as high risk for falls and prescribed me a walker with seat. No, we already saw this one, right? Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know how I got that choice. AF won his appeal for his pension disability benefits. That's awesome. I love what our vets have, that they're the part of their compensation that they never get paid when they're actually in the trenches is what they get much later. And it's something they've actually worked for. It's part of the compensation that was kind of deferred is the way I look at it. So when people say, that's not fair, I'm like, yeah, it is. That's like you had part of your paycheck held and now you get it. So it's awesome. And it'll make for a much easier, it's almost like forced savings in some way. Because I know with Social Security disability and Social Security retirement, some people don't think it should be compulsory that we pay those taxes. I'm not going to get into whether something should be compulsory or not, because most of you know that I probably am not into compulsory or anything. However, I will say I do believe that there would be many more people on the streets if we didn't have it. Pick our poison one way or the other, because people just aren't good at saving. The individual I'm helping right now had a complete inability to save even when someone had the money to do so. It's just poor choices, forgetting the importance of doing so. I was a person who spent money irresponsibly years ago. That's probably why I'm not a wealthy woman today. But then I learned, and now I've started, and it's coming along quite nice. Once you start, it does kind of snowball. So it's kind of exciting, actually. Michelle says, on your end, are you able to see which doctors have submitted medical records? Yes, Michelle. And did we share that to you? I know I say this every week, right, Michelle? Yes, we can. From our end, let me just go back to it so everybody knows what we're talking about. If you're represented and if you have an attorney or a non-attorney rep, and they are registered with the SSA, which most are if they're in this kind of career. If you have like a total newbie, they might not yet be, but they're going to do that really fast because that's to their benefit. They can get in once the SSA connects them to the electronic file, which is different than getting you started on a claim. And it's even different than getting them acknowledged as your rep. There's another step that sometimes they glitch. But when they do it right, you get connected to the electronic file, and then we can go in and see. This is only like the last several months, see all of the things that are in there that they allow us to see, which includes all the F exhibits, which are the medical exhibits. So yes, we can see. And if nothing else, Michelle, if they haven't gotten that up to you yet, I'm going to download them and get them sent to you. Like literally put them up in the portal so you can actually see all those medical records, not just get a yay or a nay. That's even faster because then there's no analysis on the spot. George Graham, how are you, bud? Good afternoon. Here's a good one. Could you be someone's proxy for a fee during their ALJ phone hearing? What do you mean proxy for a fee? There is no fee at an ALJ hearing. Do you mean having someone sit in on the hearing because your representative cannot? I'm not sure what you mean there, George. And didn't you already prevail? Come on, what's going on? But yeah, that probably wouldn't be me. That doesn't really interest me. The way my fees are just different, from more for lawyering, not just sitting in on something, Papa's Place. How much would you speculate that the shutdown is affecting step 3 applicants who applied in May 2025? I'm going to say 0, and here's why. First of all, the step 3 is done by the state workers, not the federal workers. Number 2, all essential people at the federal level are still working. So it didn't actually affect any of that. I think the truth of the matter is 15, I want to say 15%, but some people round it up to 20. So maybe it's somewhere in there, of the federal government generally is shut down. And I can tell you something that's mostly the non-essentials, not to say that I want to see this go on any longer. I'd like to see if they would just sign a clean bill and get it moving on, that would be ideal. But there are some things about some things that I won't mention here that some people insist on getting money for. I saw some of the list, guys. Actually, I was listening to it, and it's insane. It's insane. It's not even to our own country, and it's not even for countries that we're trying to keep peace with. And it's like, nah, we just want to send that over there for that frivolous little silliness. And that really annoys me. Okay. And that's why it's being, I guess, held up, because until somebody gets that, they don't want to sign. MD 77A, I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you. Do you get a notification when the adjudicator is pulling your client's medical records, or do you have to, this is a shame. We do not get a notification. And I don't really need a notification when they request the records, because that there's no reason to me go and look if they're just requesting them. But it would be good, and I know they can do this. They send us a text every time we go into the electronic file, period, with a one-time password to get in. You know what? You know our texting number. You text us for things like that. Why aren't you texting us? I've said this before. I know I said it in a live stream recently. They should be texting the representatives, at least, every time they put anything into the ERA, whether it's a letter going out saying, hey, we never got your function report. And then, of course, I could look and see that we sent it 3 weeks ago and say to them, yes, you did. Look in your file. But they don't tell us. So, if you have 100 cases, obviously you're not going to spend your day looking to see, ooh, did anything go in this hour on all of these? And you're getting your work done. So it's a little frustrating. Most of us probably, I'm assuming everybody else does too, we periodically have to go in. I kind of have it like on a diary, so everyone kind of in a rotating way, and go in and see if anything has been added. So let's say you always go in on the 15th of every month to so-and-so case, or the 1st and the 15th or something. You would look for all, because they do have the dates that something's added in the electric file. So you can see when it was added. So you can just go, well, I'm just going to go from October 1st and after. And then you could see what might be in there. It is I think, a very, very simple fix, and they would save themselves so much time, MD, if they did that, because it would save on, my gosh, if I knew something was in there, let's say it was the first time they request the function report that none of us have even gotten the mail for yet, because they just did it. They just sent it. And our mail can take a week, 2 weeks, whatever. A lot of times I'll hear it from my client before I'll know that there's been a demand for a function report, unless I happen to be bumping into the ERE for no particular purpose. So, but sometimes I'm in there anyway, because I'm uploading a thing like, hey, every time my clients tell me they have a new doctor, up it goes. When they have something significant going on with the current treater, up it goes. I always try to keep the adjudicator informed. And when I'm in there doing that, I automatically always go and look for any updates. Kill two birds, one stone. But if they made this change where we had the text come to us, I'd say with the last 4 of the social would be good. If they want to go by B and C number, we could probably manage that too. We just have to have that in some way we can quickly search it. But I think the last 4 is fine. It's not really PII at that point. So it would, I know they don't care about our time being saved at all, but it would save their time, because not having that, there's so many times when I have to reach out when I wouldn't have reached out. Like, we'll get a letter saying, we sent you a request for information on so-and-so date and you haven't responded. Please respond. Now, if I had known that, because maybe we didn't get the mail. Do you know what I mean? Like there'd be so many ways I wouldn't have to call, leave message for the adjudicator. She wouldn't have to leave back for me. Her time would be saved. I know they don't care about my time, but the adjudicators would be able to move on a roll. They'd get information in a lot faster, and that would make the cases speed up. So it's a win-win. I don't know why they don't do it. They've kind of been moving really fast with a lot of improvements. So maybe that is on their list. I don't know. I haven't had a conversation with the head tech plan person in a while. And oh, Tasha, you're not even in the picture. Anyway, I hope very much that they do that. That would be an incredible improvement. They made some really incredible improvements that have really sped things up a lot. However, that one would be ideal because it would actually also help us logistically here, not just them. Kevin says, ooh, my ALJ is a 58% approval rate, 7% partial rate. That's really good. I think that's a great rate. First of all, I think with any rates, you just make yourself in the winning rate. You make your case that strong. That's the goal, right? You get it as strong as 100% likely to win as possible. There's no such thing as 100%. I say this to my people all the time. But our goal is to, and my nagging is for the design of getting your case as close to 100% as possible so you can get through this, hopefully earlier rather than later, hopefully without an ALJ hearing. But you got to be ready and have it completely designed for the ALJ hearing if you need to. And even a little bit beyond that, you want to have it also very strong so that whatever, if it ever goes to federal district court with another attorney, I want them to have the best setup they can possibly have to win an appeal there if need be. But the goal is always to have it as strong as possible early on so most of my people can win on initial and recon. And that is the goal. They're not all going to ever be on initial and recon, but a huge number is great. Michael Jackson being all chivalrous. Thank you, Michael. Vlam says, hi, Vlam. I tried to get an electronic copy of my disability file from SSA, but to no avail. Is it possible to request your help with this issue? I can't help you with that issue. When you said I tried to get one, how did you try? What did you do? Let me know that first, okay? AF says, yes, my VA doc gave me a prescription for dual walking sticks. I use them outside of the home. May I ask AF what the benefit is of walking sticks versus cane? Just curious. They sound cooler because I remember when I'd go hiking when I was a kid, not really hiking, more of a long walk through the woods. And we loved carrying sticks and being like, so I'm just curious what the difference is. Andy Griffith. Is that a spinoff of Andy Griffith? Grew up on that show. He says, hi, Stephanie. Hi, Andy. Nice to meet you. I don't think we met. The Dreamers Club says, hi, Dreamers. I went to my hearing on August 1st. The judge approved me on September 12th. Terrific. It's been at the Baltimore Payment Center since. Any idea how much longer it could be before I get a payment? September 12th, October. I would say if it doesn't happen soon, and I don't know if you're SSD or SSI Dreamer, but if it doesn't happen soon, let's say in a week, consider calling your field office and asking them what's going on. They're not the ones that have it. They'll probably say it's at the payment center and just say, well, could you give me a clue or can you nudge them as to, can I get some word on it? It could be sitting in someone's inbox, and no, they're not closed down. Triple says, I know you and Jonathan disagree on how soon to file after leaving your last job. Does your opinion depend on age? It actually depends on case. It doesn't depend on age. Now, that doesn't mean age doesn't sometimes play a role because of the grid part, Dimple. But remember that I have a goal that might not be everyone's focus. And mine is to try to get my people to win on initial or recon. So that goal is best met. And you remember, we come from a time period, they're not this long yet again, thank goodness, but where if you had to wait for an ALJ hearing, you had another 2.5 years to go. And my people couldn't survive that long. So we looked at all the strategies and all, kind of evaluated what made which cases go faster. And when it wasn't a hop to it, when you don't have any evidence and then you blow all the strength of your initial because you got no fodder for it, and once you recognize what's strong fodder and what isn't, which is just a matter of experience, I just, Dimple, I generally say I wouldn't be doing this. But that's not to say everyone, and it depends on the evidence. So let's say you have evidence, I think you already stopped working, right? Or else you are, is it the 17th? We did talk about how, like, when you're building it while you're still working, that can be helpful. Again, it's also going to depend on what RFC can you prove, and is it going to meet your grid needs at that time? So, either way. So I wouldn't say the age doesn't have a factor in the overall strength of a case. And that's where it kind of boils down to, because the evidence that one has, which could be better if they did XYZ, which they plan on doing, that evidence may not be strong enough for their particular age, but if they got the next step of evidence, it would be. You know what I mean? And then their initial would be a winner versus a not winner, and they have to do recon. Now, it might be that then they could win on recon too, because now that's in. So while they maybe, so one could say, well, so I'm either wasting it on initial or I'm wasting it by not filing yet. Like those 3 months are going to be either not filed yet, or they're going to be wasting on an initial. It's true. So there is a chance you could still win in recon. However, some people are of the mind, and I understand it, that a recon often is a rubber stamp, depending on your adjudicator, maybe a rubber stamp of initial. Now, I think the way we turn that around, where it's not a rubber stamp, is because you have new stuff. So, if you did file and you're still getting new stuff, even though you filed before you actually had the new stuff, you could then switch it. You might lose on initial. And by the way, you could win on initial. I'm just talking about kind of like increased or decreased chances. I can't even give you a flat number. And to me, I think wasting initial is generally not a good idea. But that's not to say, again, there aren't instances where you don't have all those negative influences preventing a win on initial, particularly if an initial is going to take a year, because sometimes an initial, which again, can be a good thing if it allows you to win on initial, but a bad thing if you don't win and now you waited a year and now you're on recon, and you had all the good evidence in and they didn't buy it. So it's it's two different camps, and I completely respect my colleagues' opinion otherwise. So I just do what works best for me and gets us the results that we enjoy. So I can't really speak for how, other people necessarily do it. Carolina Bread. Hi, Carolina. Had my ALJ yesterday. All of my 23 minutes. Yeah, they like it nice and short. That's not unusual. Lawyer asked 3 questions of me. ALJ asked me no questions, but gave 3 hypos to VE. Attorney challenged all. VE conceded no jobs. Hearing over. Outcome probability? Can't say. VE conceded no jobs, only on the one hypothetical that was made up by your attorney. You see what I'm saying? So the ones that the judge proposed, there were plenty of jobs. When your attorney said, but what about this? What about this? What about this? He added things that the judge did not find important to add. Now, does that mean the judge found them not important to add because he doesn't think he actually knew those pieces of evidence were in the file and found them not to be of much worth to find that limitation is true that your attorney proposed on those additional VE hypotheticals? Or did he never even see them because, they're skimming a case, and now that your attorney brought them up, he can think about them and say, oh, there is some evidence in there. My attorney advisor didn't point this out or whatever. And therefore, did your attorney's addition give him some more food for thought that he will think about, which I'm sure he will after the hearing. He might still disregard it, but he might disregard the extent to which your attorney categorized those evidence impairments as to what kind of task functioning they'd limit. He might not agree with that. And therefore, then he doesn't have to go with the VE's statement that, yes, there would be no jobs if that was true, Mr. Attorney. If all those things were found to be true, Mr. Attorney, those jobs, there would be no jobs. And then the underlying answer is that your guy wins. But do you see what I'm saying? So I can't say that there's a probability one way or another. It's really what the judge is going to do. It does. I mean, I never like it when a judge gives, the only hypotheticals the judge gives is there are jobs. I don't find that. What if your attorney never said anything, and some people have attorneys that just sit there because they're not really doing their job. Your judge would probably have carved himself into a intentional box where he has to deny you. So why would a judge take the risk of doing that by giving all negative hypotheticals if he went in there? I'm just giving you kind of like the logical inference maybe, but your attorney might have changed his mind, and that's our job. You know, it's very hard to change a judge's mind once they already kind of have it. They're attorney advisors. They had all been over this case, but sometimes it happens. But if nothing else, your attorney has prepared the case. And this is very important for appeal to AC. And that's part of the job. It's not just winning then, it's knowing that you have to cover your client's butt if your client has to appeal. So it's kind of like a multi things behind the scenes. People go, what do you do behind the scenes? Nothing that we can actually explain, but that's one of the things he was doing when he was doing this, was setting up for plan B if this judge was going to continue with plan A, the judge's plan A. So anyway, just one way to look at it. I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure, but that would be some of the things I would think maybe happened just by those minimal facts we gave. Simple, but simple you can, I mean, there's no hard, fast rule. It's just a kind of a general thing. Clarification on a prior question. She says not applying right away. And again, we talked about this. Sometimes people are like, I don't feel like I have a choice but to apply. Number one, if there's a chance I could win sooner by applying sooner and win an initial nonetheless, and those happen. And again, it depends a lot of times on the injury. If there is a catastrophic type of diagnosis and there was a hard set date, boom. I mean, that can kind of lend itself, unless it's the kind that's going to resolve with 6 months of treatment. If it's the kind that's like, oh my gosh, there's no reason to really wait for that one, because it's not a matter of progressing and, being able to work yesterday and not today and da-da-da. But again, it is personal, and there's no, just because I have it's not ironclad, but I always think of it and the benefits of it on every case, if it would be better for the client case or not better for the client case, based on those goals I was talking about. It doesn't mean, a pro se person or someone shouldn't do as they will. You know what I mean? Okay. And you never have to defend your decisions to me, Dimple. We're all adults over 18. Justin, good to see you, Justin. He was approved in the middle of September. How long till, I think you did tell me this, right? How long till I get award letter and payments? Was it SSI or SSD, Justin? SSI, they would need a perk. You'd probably have known about that. So it's probably not SSI. That's an interview where they find out your financials and they have to speak with you. SSD, it just takes, it used to be a little quicker, I think. But if you have a workers' comp thing, it could take longer. If you have any of those kind of things that are going to have to be looked at to see if there's an offset, I would expect soon. I think if you heard me say to the other fellow that I think is in the same boat, if it goes like another week, because it looks like it's been a month, call your local office and say, hey, can you tell me where this stands? I haven't gotten any kind of letter or certainly no payment. So can you let me know where this is at? And they'll probably say, it's at the payment center. And then sometimes I'll say, do you think you could give them a little message, a little nudge that the person's waiting and they're pretty much in need of their payment? It's getting a little dire, even though it wasn't a dire case by law. RD says, my bladder issues are going on. I now have stage 2 cystocele. I will need surgery again, and I am still in the appeals process. And you have an attorney, so I'm sure you're in good hands. Prayer for you there, RD. It's not easy. Our bodies and our minds are just not as strong as we'd like them to be, right? Good afternoon, Pilot 23 Hawaii. Nice to see you. I always thought it would be so cool to be a pilot. I always wanted to fly like a bird. I used to have bird dreams, not bird dreams. And that's not why I have bird. Flying, like literally flap your wings and fly, flap your arms and fly. I had magic carpet flying dreams. I even had toboggan. I had a flying toboggan because we used to stay right on a toboggan down this big hill when I was a kid. So I always wanted to fly. At the same time, I would never bungee jump if my life depended on it. And I don't know. When I was young, I probably would have jumped out of a plane in a parachute. I remember my friends were going senior year summer before college. In fact, it was, I think my boyfriend at the time and his friend, I was going to go. Well, I wanted to go, but I was kind of like the poor kid in the bunch and I always had to work. And I didn't have the money. It was like $100, which is probably seems really cheap now, but I couldn't do it. And then one of the kids did break his ankle on landing, so I guess it was probably a good thing. Oh my gosh. James Skivel, 2982. Hi, James. I don't think we've met. Hello. Oh, we have. Oops. Sorry. Army vet. Thank you for your service very much there, James. And I can't believe I don't remember the name. Was it the same? Did we speak or did we, was it on here? Okay. Anyway, lumbar neuropathy, fibro, PTSD, bypass of 47, 51 now. Hearing was less than 30 minutes. Nothing wrong with that. Rep mentioned missing work for appointments. Strong record evidence presented. Awesome. So you are waiting on your hearing results. Fingers crossed for you, James. Yeah. Stick with a good fight. It seemed dark in here today, guys. Jasmine Tucker. Is that the bird sleeping you were talking about? She's a little awake now. A little stretchy. On the top of her head's not showing up there. You want to talk? She just likes to. You know what I did today? She was out in the living room on her perch, and I don't like to leave her alone if I'm going to go in the bathroom for any length of time, like showering, because if she sometimes, occasionally, she can't fly, but maybe if the dogs bark and make her afraid, she might jump down and land on the floor very ungraciously. I'm just concerned. The dogs have never done anything, but that's because I'm always there. So if I wasn't there, would they eventually be like, better take her to mom, pick her up? God knows. So I took her in the bathroom with me. I brought a big, long perch stick that I thought I could put on the bathroom sink. I'm like, maybe it won't roll. Stupid me. And to put her on so she could just be in the bathroom when I was showering. Instead of putting her in her cage, which she would be angry with me for. Didn't work. So I ended up putting her on top of the shower curtain rod before I ran it. And then I turned it on and she was totally fine with it. I'm like, you're getting a facial, a steam facial. She was totally fine with being on the shower curtain rod while I showered. Isn't that funny? She was curious. She's like, what are you doing in there? Very funny, right? All right, sorry. The judge asked James about work attempt the last 2 days. He wanted to know if I quit and didn't allow me to explain why. Well, your lawyer should have jumped in and let you explain why, if the why was even helpful. I was only left to say I quit. That was frustrating to me, I'm sure. Was it a 2-day job you tried? Is that what you're saying? You tried a job for 2 days. I mean, people have to quit jobs when the pain is too much. I assume that's what you're kind of suggesting. Like your pain, it was clear to you that you weren't going to be able to do this job competently. And I get it. I would quit too. I don't want to be getting a paycheck for a job I can't do competently. My pride would not let me do that. So I would quit too if my pain was preventing me from doing the job that they are paying me to do. So I hope that's not a one way or the other thing. I guess we'll see. I don't know if you have an attorney. I'm guessing you don't, or else he probably would have, because we get our chance to get out anything we want. So if you, I think you said you're an Army vet, right? If you want, send an evaluation. If you don't know attorney, see how it goes. Fingers crossed that you still win. And then if not, and you want to strategize, just let me know. And reference yourself here. You know, if you send in the eval form from the website, mention your name here on YouTube so that they could see that we spoke, okay? And then they'll shoot it right over to me. Jasmine says, do you know how long it typically takes to hear back from GDS after they have fully reviewed your claim? They don't contact you. When they're done reviewing and they've made a decision, they send it to the field office. The field office does what it does, that non-medical review, if warranted, and then you'll be notified of the next step. So they're not going to tell you. Your adjudicator is not going to call you and say, we came up with a decision, but not going to tell you. I don't think they're supposed to. I think because it could be pulled for audit and other reasons like that. So their job is not to be given the good news. Their job is to, figure out the determination and then move it on from there. Here are the birds. That's the other ones. One day I got to have them in here too, but they're not as well behaved as this one. I think what else I can tell you. Oh, I'm not sure how accurate this is, Jasmine, but if you are getting your SSA online notifications, sometimes you can go into your account and it'll say where it's at. It's a little nonsensical, but it's something. George Graham says, I'm sorry for last proxy question. Oh, here's another proxy. Yeah, I don't like to be the proxy. I like to be the one handling the case. Here's another. Will AI track a person on SSDI going to the gym? Well, how does AI track you? Stop that. No. Or store. As you are aware, I had my 6th spine surgery and feeling better. I'm wheelchair something. Still in a wheelchair. Yeah, no, they're not surveilling like CDIs and stuff. They are for when there is an indicator that someone may be doing something contraindicated, like working full time. Could it be if someone says, I know he's whatever the report is, and I can't go into details because I've never actually seen them, but they're not just auto surveillance. Are you kidding? They couldn't do that. The resources are not there. AI is not cheap. The energy isn't even cheap. I don't even know how they're going to afford all the energy consumption. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get to a more broad discussion of how they want everyone to be on a social credit card or something like that, and have a credit, not credit card. Well, they want everything digital so they can track your spending. Not the SSA, though. It's not the SSA. So I don't think we should go down the rabbit hole we don't need to go to. But if you want to be concerned about things like that generally, which is not necessarily a bad idea, look at that bigger picture of what some are trying to do with the social credit score and the ability for a government to turn off your bank when they want to. I mean, we've already had it happen. Once, when we don't use cash, we are and we're only using digital ways of spending, the power to someone to press the button. People see it all the time. Remember, they were eliminating people from people that didn't speak the way some powers wanted them to speak. They closed their bank accounts, froze their funds. Some of the online payment processors that some of us use, that's very disturbing. So that's where I'd kind of direct my angst, I think. And obviously, does AI get used in every aspect of life? Yes. But I wouldn't be so paranoid about it taking time to spy on what it knows is, let's say, 99% truly disabled people, 1% not. They're not going to go daily peruse 100% of the people. Things come out, that get most of the 1%. And people say, well, it's only 1%. Who cares? 1% is billions of dollars. That's why we care. Of the Social Security funds. Scott Kellogg, nice to see you, Scott. Should I see a physical therapist for my appeal process? DDS has my MRI report and medical records. So I think what you're saying is you're not treating for the things that you would get physical therapy for. If you're not treating for it, can be a problem. If you're, you've heard me talk before, Scott, probably about my love for physical therapy records, because they speak a lot about the actual musculoskeletal problem. Usually it's musculoskeletal, but there's other kinds of PT for the sake of this discussion. And when the person would only otherwise see their orthopedic maybe every 6 months or 3 months. So they can get like 12, 15, 18, 24 visits in a month or maybe 2 months, whereas that would take 10 years. So for that reason, I like the PT. If your doctor, you could bring it up to them, because doctors sometimes forget to suggest the things that would be helpful to a body. They just do. They're busy people. They're probably a little overwhelmed. And, we can knock them all they want when they're not doing a very good job. But the reasons why is, we need to kind of get to the root causes. So bring it up to your doctor and just say, do you think physical therapy would help me strengthen that weak back or that whatever? And see what he says. And if he does, yes, if you can go, I would definitely go. And as soon as you start going, as soon as you get because you don't know when the DDS person is going to pull the trigger on a decision or determination. So I would suggest perhaps letting him know that you're starting on Tuesday, if you get a start date, so that he knows that you're starting then. And he might want to keep the record open a few weeks to see what's going on there. And then, of course, every time you go to one, I would flip my note or something. It's going to be like, if it's 3 times a week, he's going to be hearing from you a lot, but you can make sure he's getting them. If you can get in and get them, or talk to him and say, as you know, from my message to you last week, I'm going to physical therapy. Are you going to order the records? And can you get them through a HITMER, HITMER, where he can get them automated, sent to him, because you've already given the permission slip. And that's the way he doesn't have to mail something out or fax the company, and they take their time. He gets them same day. George says, my Android messing up. Sorry for my questions. Oh, was it voice to text? I got to start using that. But yeah, it could be funny bad, right? I've had some funny, weird texts that I've issued by accident. And it wasn't even from voice to text. It was my clumsy fingers, which is why I don't like the text. Tara Lynn's in the house. Hi, Tara Lynn. She says, it's been 2 months since I filed SSDI online. I sent medical records same time. Meaning you attach them to your application or sent them into your field office, which is not necessarily helpful. I immediately received the 820 from them. Okay, so that means that you were working after your alleged onset date, or it was before your alleged onset date, but you indicated you had changed the nature or the duties or the type of work because of your disabilities before you stopped working. Have not received the function report yet. Does everyone have to fill that out? I would say 99%, and the other 1% is a mistake. Or maybe 99% of the 1% are mistake, and then 1% of the 1% is because they're like, we don't need that. She's a listing. All right. But 2 months in is not long. You might not even have an adjudicator, because I think the 820 comes from the field office. So you might just be waiting for an adjudicator, Tara. Walking sticks seem to be the same as canes to me. Yeah. Just cooler name. I agree. Yes. A walking stick versus a cane. Do they have a curved top? Then it's a cane, right? But a walking stick by any other name. Or is it like, I mean, I think of like the really cool knotted wooden branch type thing. That's what I'd be getting. Hey, Wayne Quarter, nice to see you from Kentucky. Thanks for chiming in. Love the flag. Vlam says, I filled out the SSA 3288 form. Okay, we've talked about that, right, Vlam? You've probably seen. Submitted to my local field office, but I haven't received anything in my email. It has been more than 1 month since I submitted the paperwork in person. I would call them. And I find that unacceptable. Not of you, of them. And it happens all the time. And I would call and say, I sent you the 3288. And I would even say, like you, SSA, directed me to. Say it nicely, though. Just say, like you directed me to. Like your office directed me to. Because even if you didn't speak to them about it, it's on their website as a direction when you want to file. Do the 3288. So I'd say, just like you told me to, I sent in the 3288. I need it by email. I don't know, Vlam, if you sent them the POM section that says they can do it by email, because you get some really untrained people in there, and they're like, no, we have to send you a, it's like, CDs don't work. Nobody has a reader. Let's go back. Let's get into the current century. We started. But I would call and use honey, not vinegar, like I always say, and say, you told me to send a 3288. I did that last month. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they say, down. So they are choosing not to do it because they are saying it's not essential. So I was speaking to another person who still hasn't gotten hers either. And I think someone in the office did say that. But the people in the office, they're there to do those things. But there is, I mean, arguably it's not the top priority of customer facing work. It's usually the claimants in taking in the applications and getting them moved on to the next office. So that is possible. But just keep on it. Just keep on it. But don't ever hold up an appeal if you're waiting for it. Dimple says Friday. Oh, did I remember the day? Look at that. See, my memory's good. I'm getting a little worried now that I've seen some early dementia stuff going on in my, not inner sphere, but outer sphere. Scary, right? So yeah, October 17th. I remember that. Just wanting to be sure that I'm doing what I can to have the ducks in the same zip code. Yes, I think you are. You've been so, you ask questions of a lot of us, get a lot of different, advisements and perspectives, and then you can apply whichever one's fit your case the best, Dimple. I think that's very smart. Vlam said, I was told I would hear back in a couple of weeks. What should I do now? That was about the, call them. Yeah, I'd call them. And that's another thing. If they just do the paperwork timely, they'd have less phone calls. And that would save them time, wouldn't it? Okay. Dimple says, I agree. I don't want to waste my initial. And again, it's not a guarantee that it would be wasted. It's just that the chances go up. That's all. Dimple says, I should have worded my question differently. No disrespect to you. Oh my God, we know that. My goodness. We know that. He loves you. I love you. It's all good. I love him. It's all good. I'm only a couple years younger, Dimple. I guess that would be like a little sister. All right. The Dreamers Club. It's SSDI. Okay, I called them yesterday and they say it's at the Baltimore Payment Center and they can't see anything. No workman's comp or anything. Okay, it's just the Baltimore Payment Center being slow. I have some of those myself. You can ask them. I mean, if you really want to dig in, you can today go to your senator's website, look for help with a federal agency, give them the information they asked for, give them the date that you won your case, and that the SSA field office told you it's the Baltimore office, but they can't see anything and they can't do anything. And it's like being out in space. And could you please nudge the Baltimore office or whoever the connection is? Sometimes they do that. I mean, they usually want you to sign a release. And they usually do that like within a week. And they can get things like that, ba-boom. Because that's something that's just a little, well, that's probably because I was a tomboy. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you looked really nerdy. But the only time I ever saw that show, Dimple, was when I was homesick. Because it was all on that daytime TV. That's Flying Nun with Sally Field when she was Sally Field when she was very young. Not as young as when she was, what was that other show she was on the beach? Or was that Annette Funicello? And that's stuff that precedes our age, really, Dimple, right? We were kids when that stuff was, those people were. So while we're dating yourself, we're not as old as that. MD77 says, can an applicant see on their SSA online account any of the evidence, Inc., medical records, that and this? I don't think so yet. And if you guys ever see that they do, let me know, because that'll be a great improvement. If you upload documents to them, MD, upload them through your SSA.gov account. You could see what you uploaded, so you know it got there. That is my understanding from my friend Anna. I don't know if you're watching, Anna. I know you're going through some tough stuff right now, but I think Anna's the one that told me that. So yeah, I don't think you can. And I wonder if they're going to ever let you. I wonder if a concern is if pro se folks can see it, they will be calling and nagging their adjudicators and wasting their time when they could be getting work done. I just wonder if that's a concern. Saying, what does it say? What do you think about that document? You know what I mean? And they need to get their work done. So I don't know that if that's a reason why they might not. And by the way, I don't know that when we see it at first, we can actually see, well, we can open it up and see, but from the description they have, you might not be able to actually, can you then open it up? I don't know. But you know, if you upload something, I think you can see it in there and you know that it got there. So there's that little nudge in the right direction that's very recent. Valerie, good morning. How are you? Yes, I'm back this week, Valerie. So glad. Valerie says, what advice do you have for someone preparing for a Social Security appointment? I'm wanting to revoke my payee. One of my doctors says that with everything with banking, I could learn. Yes. She says she would like to see me handle it, but not well enough to work. What are your thoughts? I agree. And I think now that there's online technology for automated bank pay out of your banking account, where you can have it sent, all the checks you can also have from the provider themselves, where they automatically draw it out of that bank account. So whichever way you want to do it, it will open up the lack of a need for payee for many people who are not spendthrifts. So if you don't have a problem where you overspend and spend irresponsibly and then you can't pay your rent, like let's say you're a gambler, or sometimes some bipolar, manic, depressive, severe types will go on manic phases and blow money. Sometimes it'll be gambling, sometimes it'll be shopping, really, really bad. And if the episode goes on for weeks, I mean, people have had it where they took out a home equity line of credit and blew it. If it's not that kind of disorder and it's more of I'm a little slow in the concentration, I get some weeks where I'm kind of not feeling well enough to do it, and I might otherwise miss a bit. Maybe that's why. But if your doctor says, and what I would do is show that you've already got it set up. Have someone, I mean, it's hard when you already have a rep payee, but I'm trying to think how you can do it where you could show that I've already learned it. Or say, I have someone, here's their signed 795 statement. They are going to set up, if I can become my representative payee, they're going to help me set up all the payments for all my bills, and show me how it works. I'm not a stupid person. I'm just disabled. And when I say that, I don't mean to say to them rudely or anything. Like, we're not trying to be, ticking anybody off or getting on anyone's bad side at the SSA, and just say, it's the higher level of concentration to like pay all these things on time was difficult for me. But with the everyday technology that everybody's using, I can use that too. And therefore, and then if your doctor says she thinks you can do it, that with automated bill pay, and if you're able to log in on things, so you can check things, you can go into your own bank account, tell them how you already know how to do that. If you have a different bank account, you know what I mean, where you have like whatever spending money your payee might give you, I would give it a shot. It was different when we didn't have this technology, when you'd have to basically be saying, I've improved enough to do it. That seemed risky in theory, that you've improved enough to do it, because improvement is the hallmark of CDR. But now times have changed, and that could be beneficial to, I think, people who the only reason they couldn't do it was because of physical difficulties, or just not always being able to do it on the right day every month because they might be in bed that day not feeling well. The fact that your doctor is on board, I think, is 90%, because now the SSA has something to rely on besides trusting you, that's objective, and it's a medical provider who's got way more credentials than they do in this. You follow? Scott says he's seeing a chiropractor and acupuncture doctor. Okay. I'm only going to say that acupuncture and chiropractic might not be considered medical therapies or medical treatment. They might be something a little outside of that. And a doctor of acupuncture or a doctor of chiropractic is not an MD per se, or a DO, which are the only acceptable kind of doctors there are. And you're the one asking about the PT, Scott, above. I think PT prescribed by an MD is worth more because it's more of an acceptable form of medical treatment. It's not that chiropractor and acupuncture. I say this to my people all the time because I have some people that are like die hard on that. And I'm like, I know, I get it. And I'm not saying stop, but that's not going to meet the threshold of this. So if you can get that PT in there, then it gives you a little bit more, more medical evidence as opposed to I go to my massages every Friday, because that's almost how some people perceive that. I don't, but I'm just saying it's not right in the rules. It's not, they are not medical doctors or DOs. They're just other forms of therapy, kind of, if that makes sense. James Kibble. My attorney did not do much to prepare me, and I didn't feel they crossed the judge or the VE. Who really knows what the judge was thinking prior to the hearing? I'll be contacting your firm for appeal. We don't really know, but we can kind of take an educated guess when we hear the questions they ask, Now, keep in mind, if you've had a hearing, James, your next appeal is to the appeals council on the same case. Some attorneys that do the underlying case will take it to appeals council, some won't. I mean, it's just something to think about. And then if you win the AC appeal, it goes back to the same judge versus starting a new claim from the day after the judge's decision forward as your onset date. It'll be some things to discuss as to what tactic you're going to want to take. If you do continue to appeal, win at AC, and go back to the same judge, your prior law firm is still connected to your case. I mean, it's not that you can't withdraw from them, but then you have 2 attorneys you have to pay. So it's just something to think about. Alex says, ICE is already training AI to scan millions of people's naturalization applications. I should hope they are, don't you think? Their records in other countries, social media records, and absolutely. You could say we are next, and that'll be true if we don't better support things such as search warrant protections, FISA, not lying on FISA applications. So think long and hard. Using tools to prevent fraud is a wonderful thing. Using them to break the constitutional rights and due process we have is a totally another thing. So just make sure you know the difference and where that line is cut. All right. We are citizens. It is very different. Very different. Gidget, that's right. Gidget, the beach girl. Sally Field. Yeah, it was reruns. That's right. We were only on reruns, Dimple. We're not that old. Valerie says, my payee said that she failed to pay one of my bills and I got a late fee. Ooh, that would be an excellent. Why didn't your payee have it set up? Can't they set it up too? But maybe that's to your benefit. To say, the payee rep who does it manually, she screwed up. I want to do it this way. I can pay attention to it. And I could see, there should be no glitches. And if there was, I'm fully capable of seeing it. I think you've got a good chance, Valerie. Again, assuming you're not a spendthrift. Because that is the thing where you spend them, you know what I'm talking about. I'm saying that because I'm in the throes of a matter with a spendthrift. And it is creating a homeless situation for this person. My savings is wiped out, delaying the homelessness for 3 months. It will be 3 months when this money runs out. And I don't know, what do? I don't have any more after that. I can't do it. Dimple and Valerie are speaking. I'll let you 2 alone. Carolina says, is the ALJ actively decisioning during the hearing? Is the ALJ actively decisioning during the hearing, or is the evidence and the proceedings reviewed later for decision? Meaning, is the ALJ adjudicating during or after the hearing? I'm going to say after. However, as a human, we have, our brains are constantly working and we're evaluating evidence, making, discriminatory-izations of something. And I don't mean that in a negative way. We all discriminate. I discriminate on when I look at 2 pieces of food, which one do I want to eat? That's discrimination. It's just not illegal discrimination. So they are absorbing, and probably as a human, you come to a feeling about something, whether you think that's helpful or not helpful, or however general way we each do it in our brains. However, I think as a matter of law, a judge can't make a conclusion of the case until all evidence is reviewed. And that cannot be done until that hearing is over, because more evidence is coming in every time you open your mouth or every time the VE opens his or her mouth. You follow? So I would have to say the adjudication comes after the hearing. And sometimes there is post-hearing development. So the adjudication is going to come after that when he wants to get another piece of evidence. That's a good question, Carolina. That was interesting. I don't think I've seen that one before. MD says, I know chiropractor and acupuncture are not considered with much weight from SSDI. I know chiropractor and acupuncture. Yeah. I learned this from Attorney Ginsburg, my buddy Jonathan. How about biofeedback and TENS treatment? Are they considered by? I can't really speak to biofeedback, but TENS treatment is, again, we do that at home. Oftentimes, some people have their own TENS devices, and if it's prescribed, it's always helpful. And including the ones that we were talking about, chiropractor and acupuncture. Anything prescribed in the records as such is helpful. And the TENS treatments, reflect a certain kind of impairment that it would not be prescribed for unless you had that, maybe that nerve thing, right? So for those, I would think similarly. It shows that you are doing a certain treatment has been recommended. For instance, maybe there's another way to look at it. You've been recommended to elevate your feet chest high every 2 hours for 45 minutes because of significant edema that will develop in the feet or the ankles or the calves. And so there's an objective thing, the swelling that occurs, and the solution is the home therapy measure, if you will, of elevating your feet like in a recliner for 45 minutes every 2 hours. That is not the medical, if in the medical record the doctor has advised this, that carries quite a bit of weight. If he does it and he kind of explains why, due to severe edema and the need to bring it down because the Lasix is not working so great, he's got to do this. And he gets specific with the time frames like that, that can be pretty powerful. Because elevating your feet for 45 minutes every 2 hours is inconsistent with full-time work. You can't do a full-time 8-hour day if you're taking off every 2 hours to go recline for 45 minutes. And it's medically recommended in the medical records as such. And that is one of the most important parts about it, is that it's not just you saying, I have to go elevate. When a client says that to me, I'm like, we got to get your doctor to explain why that is necessary. In a one-liner, he could just be like, I've directed her to elevate her feet at least every 2 hours, a minimum of 45 minutes or something like that. And that is pretty valuable. I mean, you would think that with certain diagnoses and symptoms, complaints already in the record, the edema and all that, we all know that we're supposed to elevate our legs. It's a fact. You can look under any reputable medical literature sites, any of the big hospitals, and they will say so. That's one of the ideal therapies, that's non-medication. But I find that they will ignore it unless your doctor actually says you should do it. And they'll specifically say, there's been no doctor recommendation for the elevation, so I'm not really going to consider it. Well, there goes the whole case, right? Let's see. Daryl Smith. How long? Daryl. Hi, Daryl. How long should it take to get back pay from SSDI? It varies. So how long has it been? It could take up to a couple months, I suppose. I'd say once you have an award letter, if it's been 30 days, I would probably call my field office and ask, and they'll probably say what we were talking about above, Daryl, they'll say, it's at the payment center. We can't see squat. And I would say, could you please message the payment center and ask them to, I'm diligently waiting for it. And then again, if it goes too long, I'd be contacting that senator. Yes, John, look at you. The bird is falling asleep. Yeah, I see her eyeball open now. Hi, baby. She's so cute. She's stretching. She's awake. They do it the old-fashioned way, write a check and send it off, meaning your RP. Yeah, that is old-fashioned. Maybe she's one that needs an RP herself. All right. I think are we good here, guys? It's been an hour and oh no, I see some more. Oh, okay. I think we have no more questions, guys. Are we good? It's an hour 20 in. What do you think? Anybody? If I see any in the next 2 minutes, I'll take it. Otherwise, we can call it a day. We got a nice one here. It's a nice fall day. It's not raining. I think the Jersey Shore got a little bit of the something. You're welcome, guys. It's always my favorite day. Wednesday fun day. I'm just skimming up. I don't think I missed anybody, right? Usually they tell me. Anyway, all right. So dailies at noon for our pre-recordeds every day at noon on this channel. And next Wednesday, I'm sure we will be here with bells on for another live stream. And if you have any questions along the way, to put them in any post, in the comments section of any video. It doesn't have to be related, and I will hit it up. You're welcome, Dimple. And if I can make a video out of something that would be helpful for everybody else, that would be great. So feel free to share those kind of questions too. I am soon to be, like I said, getting a lot more up to speed after some busy times, and it will be great to expand on this. Oh, Justin has a question. All right, Justin. I have chronic midfoot arthritis. I need a complete knee replacement. Won't do the knee because of my feet. Damn. So what's the solution to that, Justin? I mean, you don't have to tell me here, but I'm curious. That's Justin Switzer. I was thinking it was Justin Yu. Sorry, Justin Switzer. I don't think we've met, right? Yeah, that's a tough one because that's going to affect your ability to do walking jobs, which means light work. Light work. I assume you have an attorney and you've already filed. You're not working. If you're over 50, even if you can do sedentary work, there's an avenue, a needle thread you can do with the grids that you can prevail without if you can't be doing light work. Potentially, it'll depend on your case. If you don't have an attorney, you can always send in the eval. I think I put it at the top of the chat in here, the link, but it's at joydisability.com, and in the upper left is a free SSD evaluation form. We'll take a look and see if we have availability in your category. And if so, it gets shuffled right to me and I call you right away. And we take it from there. But hopefully you have someone and it's going well and you will prevail, and fingers crossed for you. Okay, Justin, thank you for popping in. And we're going to close up, guys, because it looks like everyone's good to go. I will chat with you next time. Have a great week. Be safe. And keep your chins up, guys. Bye-bye. Say goodbye.